Welcome back to another episode of the Corporate Cowboys podcast. As always, my name is Alex, your host, as we continue on our journey together, developing one another, if you will, professionally. That's what I'm striving for by producing this content for you. Each of these 30-minute episodes you can treat as a free 30-minute consult for whatever is on your mind, related to corporate at least, right? Because there are a lot of angles, many angles to corporate. And I use this podcast as a way of, as a form of cathartic release, if you will. But always, I act as a professional, a consummate professional. Still, you want to take what I say, you want to take what we talk about here, the content we create. You want to take it all with a grain of salt. Do not rely on anything that we say as legal advice. Shouldn't be construed that way, nor do we promote any wrongful activity, extra legal activities, if you will, regardless of what we talk about. Sure, we're professionals, but we're not your professionals, at least not yet. If you are interested in a personal consult, something custom to yourself, to your life, to your situation, to the moves you want to make next, you need a little help strategizing your way up the corporate ladder or across it, hit us up. We're on Instagram. That's at Corporate Cowboys with a Z. You can DM us, get our attention that way. The Patreon is active as always. There are many tiers, some of them that allow you to pose the next question to be answered, pose a prompt for a podcast. And when you do go that route, please provide as much information as possible. We will take our time and our opinion, at least the past couple of episodes. I've been consistent with a 30-minute rant, essentially, right? So you'll get 30 minutes. You'll get 30 minutes of content, of opinion, for sure. If it's customized, if it's tailored for an episode. Otherwise, the one-to-one rates are very reasonable, more than reasonable in my opinion, because you get a second look at your particular situation from a corporate Cowboys perspective. We're on Rumble, we're on YouTube. There are a couple of links floating around if you want to shoot us $1 or shoot us $1, donate, keep this operation nonprofit. It'll all go towards business expenses and legal fees and office stationery and ammunition and all that good shit. All right, today's question is coming from r/career advice. This is another subreddit, and I find that a lot of these questions that we pull up off the internet, particularly Reddit, they have a lot of ways to answer them. Sometimes they get really specific with their situation. Other times they get really broad, really general in the way they ask questions. Today's is no different. In r/career advice, there is a question that was posed to, I guess, the general public, which I will be picking out and picking apart, given my experience and that of my associates that I've worked with, my colleagues. The question is asking, when you see that old boss that you hated for a reason and resigned because he was a cunt, what is the best reaction that's tempted to say how you were doing? So it's written poorly, right? And I imagine it's because this person is writing this question from emotion. Whether they're sitting at their computer or sitting on their phone, they're just scribbling this shit down like, what the fuck do I say? I'm so tempted to say something. I'm tempted to say something. Don't be tempted. Don't be tempted. You might have hated your boss for a reason, and they might be oblivious. Right when I said that, actually, a highlight came to my mind. I've never seen maybe um, one or two genres of TV series that I've seen from beginning to end. Mad Men is not one of them, but I have seen highlights, and that's actually how I stay on top of like sports and statistics and economics. I just read highlights. Unless I have to dive into the technical writing of white papers and spreadsheets and data analysis, unless I have to do something with some depth and be thorough about it, I'm just catching highlights, right? Mad Men is one of those that I seen a lot of highlights. And so, as I've surfed the web, because when I take breaks or when I eat, that's usually when I consume media. I've seen some Mad Men highlights, and the one that comes to mind is where this stuck up dude named Pete, I guess, and what's the other dude's name? The boss dude, Draper, Don, Don Draper or Ron Draper, Don Draper. Don Draper sounds better. Don Draper, yeah, Don Draper, and the dude Pete. They're entering an elevator together, and I guess Pete is like a nobody, or Pete is yeah, Pete's like a nobody. He's like a new guy trying to establish himself in corporate, and so he's making ostentatious moves. He's acting wild. He's shooting from the hip, if you will, without consulting with the chain of command. Right, that's already a red flag. You're a soldier and you're out being cavalier about your shit. That's already a red flag. You want to move like a corporate cowboy, you have to first assert yourself as a corporate cowboy. In that series, I would put that label on Don Draper. Don Draper would probably be more corporate cowboyish than our buddy Pete. Because I also recall another highlight in which Don Draper was fired, but he never had an employment agreement with whatever firm he was working at, right? Price, Cooper, Water, Scott, some shit like that, right? It's a marketing agency. And he never had an official employment agreement with them, right? And the whole point of that was that he was a free agent. He had no non-compete provisions that were keeping him from going off and working with the competition. This motherfucker was a corporate cowboy. He knew what he was worth and he asserted it. He negotiated it. And so he had a reputation, and his reputation preceded him. Anybody's hand he shook, Don motherfucking Draper. They knew the name, they knew the business, they knew the type of work he was about, and that he put in work. He put in work. So goes the story, right? The scene that I'm referring to in this case is where Pete and Don are entering the elevator, and Pete says some swarmy shit, some smug shit like, "I feel sorry for you, Don," or about something about Don's ego or some bullshit like, I don't know, maybe Pete got one up on him and now Pete's feeling himself. He's all the way into his fucking bag. He's nose deep into his own bag, high on his own supply. And he's telling Don, he believes he's telling Don off, "I feel sorry about you, Don. I hope that you think about this moment," or some fucking bullshit like that. Really trying to yank on Don's chain, right? Get him riled up for some reason, even though he's still a subordinate to Don. And Don, the whole time, is looking forward, not even looking at Pete. Pete's got his shoulders pretty much squared up to Don and addressing Don, facing Don, and Don just facing forward, not even looking at Pete. From what I remember, Don's looking forward, and then after Pete finishes his mini tirade, Don just looks over and says, "I don't think about you at all." Dog, dog, when I tell you that that was the most sigma shit, right? The most alpha sigma shit, whatever the youngsters say nowadays, but it was boss in my day, right? The most boss shit he could have replied with, he could have responded with, was just saying to all of those little wishes that Pete was saying, I hope you think back on this time or whatever the fuck. Don was saying, I don't think about you at all, and kept it moving. That should come to mind when this person is running off of emotion and still keeping this hatred for this previous manager, right? We have, granted, we have no background, we have no context, we have no circumstantial setting in which to rationalize why our hypothetical client in this case feels this way. This is something we would explore together as a consultant, as as my hypothetical client. If they want to get past this, they should be able to get past this, especially if this is a person that they will be running into constantly, given whatever work it is they do now, in whatever industry it is they work in. These are all questions they should be asking themselves. How should they address this former manager of theirs? And does their manager even fucking remember them? Or is their manager oblivious? Was it something their manager did that they had no idea about? And this person is just fucking neurotic, manic about it whenever they see their manager. If they continue to work together in some capacity or they run into each other often because of the industry that they're in, it may it may it may benefit the hypothetical client to reassess wherever their emotion comes from. And when I say where, it's going to be internally. Assess and evaluate themselves internally in order to keep a professional relationship going. Now, if it was some grimy, some personal shit that calls for other extra other extracurricular measures, then that could also be addressed, right? Because that implicates and requires planning and strategy. It requires logic and it requires tact. It requires you going in cold and calculated, calm and cool, in order for you to come out on top, in order for your reputation to overwhelm theirs, right? Now, there are no sides here. There may not be a good and an evil, right? You may not want to compartmentalize your thoughts right off the bat, at least. You may not want to start there because you may be in the wrong. The client is not always right. The client may have a point, but that point may not even be facing the right direction. Again, this truth shit is a double-edged sword. And some folks don't even know how to handle it. That being said, if we had this hypothetical client, we would ask them what caused this indifference? What caused this animosity to develop between their former employer and themselves? Why should they be tempted to address them at all if they may never see them again? What the fuck is the point of opening that can of worms? Is this a situation where, quote unquote, next time I catch you on the street, it's on site type shit? If it's not that, don't bother. I've been there. I've done that. And if it is not that, don't fucking bother. Because if you're not about that action and it just so happens that your old cunt boss is, you will be in for a reckoning. And if it's not that, maintain your professional image and keep it moving. Because if you haven't elevated in position, at least to their level or higher at this point, what really do you have to show for it? Are you going to catch up with them and let them know how much they they antagonized you, how much they twisted up your life, how much they mixed it up, why they caused this emotion to ferment in your soul? What kind of closure are you trying to obtain? What type of response are you trying to elicit from them? Because if that's what it's about, you want to air your grievances and you want to vent somehow, then we're back. We're back at the Don Draper and Pete scene from Mad Men. Now, if you want to show off, maybe you've come up in the world and your old cunt boss is still an old cunt. I don't know, they could be male or female. They could be bitch made regardless, right? And you want to show off and flex on them a little bit. Well, I mean, you want to ask yourself, what exactly will that achieve? If anything, some degree, if any, of satisfaction. Will you feel better after that? And sure, you might say yes now, or you could overextend yourself. You could overshare what it is you do, who it is you do it with, or who it is you do it for, assuming you're still an employee and you work for somebody. You could say, oh, I work for this and this company now, this and this organization. I'm a middle manager. I'm way above your pay grade and all this bullshit. I got a fucking Lamborghini and a fucking a girlfriend or a boyfriend, whatever the fuck, who gives me roadhead while I drive in this Lamborghini. Like, you could try and flex and it wouldn't fucking matter if your boss was about that life and chooses to ruin it. Decides that, you know what, they have time today. They're going to follow up on where you work and who you work for. They might stir the pot some way, somehow, right? Now that's moving like a corporate cowboy in a nefarious sense, in an unrighteous manner, which motherfuckers do. Motherfuckers want to play cutthroat. Motherfuckers think they're sick. And so they'll sink anybody they have to in order to get ahead or prove a point or just watch the world burn. And if you start that fire, then it was you wanting to watch their world burn. Just like your perception has you believing that whatever the fuck they did when you worked for them and caused you to believe this motherfucker's a fucking cunt and had your world on fire, in retrospect, when you take a step back, it might have been nothing at all. Again, we don't have the context, how long this person has worked for that manager, for that boss, what they did exactly that caused them to feel this way, that caused them to feel offended, that caused them to feel as if some injustice was levied on them, was carried out and laid upon them. We don't know. It could be nothing, or it could be something legitimate. And that still might not justify this sense of temptation to say something, which is more than likely going to be something out of pocket. If it's not professional, it's going to be something out of pocket, like, hey, what's up, motherfucker? Remember me? I used to work for Wooty Woo, whatever the fuck, and you made me do this or whatever the fuck. Now look at me. I'm shitting gold, mother. Like, it doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter. If you've moved beyond it, they might be in the same situation. You don't know their situation at that. Sure, we would ask about it in a consult for as much detail as possible. Try and provide a sense of clarity by talking it through and walking it through. But again, if you're just going to be shooting from the hip and not thinking before you do, it's not the same thing as running and gunning like a corporate cowboy. When you go in with the mission already on hand and you have the skill to improvise, you can adapt, you can integrate and incorporate on the fly to improvise and your way into success. This, what you're talking about, this isn't that. This isn't improvising for success, because flexing on your old manager or calling them out and abusing them verbally or harassing them somehow, like quote, returning the favor by harassing them, is not pointing you in the direction of success. Let it go. Which, again, like I said, if it was something personal, if it was something out of pocket on their end, then legal is probably not what you're thinking. And in that case, if you already haven't done anything, you likely aren't about that life. Or it wasn't that serious. Again, let it go. I do want to take a couple looks at these comments. I do want to take a look at a couple of these comments and see if I can't comment on them, give you a reaction of sorts, because typically what I've seen, and it's been a common theme, is that I don't miss motherfucking the principles of being a corporate cowboy are absolute. They are the truth. They're factual and actual. Just fucking cold hard facts. Whether or not you choose to follow them on your way to success, or you want to take shortcuts and compromise your values and sell yourself short, take it up the fucking ass in the form of negotiating your own goodwill and reputation for, I don't know, a sense of being compensated because you get more money for it or whatever the fuck. But you ain't worth a damn. Again, that's on you. That's on you. And every now and then, the Reddit comments, the ones that are upvoted the most, right, they end up near the top. And for the most part, the majority, we understand that Reddit can have some extremist or biased leanings in a liberal or progressive or leftist sense, and then other subreddits will be conservative, libertarian, or right-sided, right? That's not to say any of them are wrong. A broken clock is right twice a day, and that's why there's two sides. But that's also why the horseshoe theory exists. At the end of the day, we're in the same fucking pond. Some of us, though, are sharks. All right, the first comment says, just ignore them and keep it moving. If they say anything, just respond very quickly and get away from them. No need for unnecessary drama. That's that's chef's kiss. On point with what I said. On point. Especially the unnecessary drama part. I said to just let it go. If it wasn't anything significant, if it was something significant, you would have done something about it. You wouldn't be on Reddit bitching. You would be, quote, about that life. And if it was nothing significant, if it was something job related, maybe this person had you doing the menial labor and you felt it was something denigrating, like you weren't meant to do that job, and so you feel like this person was an absolute cunt about how they managed you, that it left a foul taste in your mouth to call them boss. That's on you, fam. That's on you for not having a backbone and negotiating your worth, right? But again, we don't have context. We don't have the hypothetical client's age. We don't have their background, what their experience is like, educational or experiential, professional, career wise. We don't know any of that. This person seems really like they're just coming off of their the sleeve, an armband, wearing their heart on it. They come off as emotional. I'll be honest. I'll be honest. They're coming off as emotional. That may not be it. Maybe they want advice on how to be better, on how to act better, on how to take this opportunity, this quote temptation they have to really one up their manager, to fucking stick it to them one time. They want to take that opportunity. They want to take that energy and transmute it into something productive, something professional, something that will develop, that will enrich them, that will edify them professionally. Now, that might be me thinking idealistically, right? Because in my mind's eye, we should all strive to be consummate professionals, a corporate cowboy. And we settle for no one. We keep it moving. We are the ones that wrangle corporate. We are the ones that move the stock, the livestock, the cattle, if you will. It's funny how that play on words fits publicly traded companies. The next comment here, the next comment states, I want to say the same thing essentially. It says, take the high road, ignore, or be polite. That is the high road, really. You could either ignore them or be polite. Now, notice how in the beginning, I did insert a consideration. If this manager is still someone you interact or will be interacting with on a somewhat regular basis, with increased frequency, right? If you'll be seeing more and more of them, choose your acts wisely. Choose your words wisely, because you will have to maintain some form of professional relationship with them. And all that is dependent on what exactly it was that they did to have you believe that they're a fucking cunt. If it was something egregious, out of pocket, atrocious, right? Then it's something you might have taken care of if you were somebody else. If you were more explosive. And if you're not, take the high road. Ignore them or be polite. I mean, if there are other formal procedures you can follow, like lodging a complaint, but that's something you should have done when you were working for them, when you were having that feeling of this cunty motherfucker, that that feeling, that accurate feeling building up inside of you. That's when you should have been filing complaints and speaking to other managers and HR even. And even then, you may not be about that life. Maybe you don't want the spotlight like that. So why the fuck would you think about instigating something when you really aren't about that action? Again, this is not meant to offend. This is meant to have you reflect. And I'm not using the podcast as a shield because I'm 1,000 miles away from the listener. Take this podcast and treat it like time together. Time that you have with me and my associates together. We could be, imagine, we could be in a room sitting at a round table and you come to us with an issue. Our door is always open. And no, we are not family. But we have the same motives. We have the same drives. Similar, at least, similar convictions for being better. I once heard it said that it's sad that most everybody has a circle of motherfuckers they hang around with to just bullshit and talk about nonsense. And yet they don't have a circle of colleagues and associates that they could chop up game with and talk business. Take this time. 30 minutes. It's a free consult. Take this time and treat it that way. Granted, it's all been one way, just me talking to you. And I try not to have any dead air. I try to fill all the silence. Not because I don't believe in awkward silences. Silence can also be a weapon. But I do my utmost to fill the 30 minutes I have with you. The 30 minutes I can spare. Not for free, right? This is an investment on my part for speaking, an investment on your part for listening, for taking it in, and for thinking. I hope it causes you to think, to reflect, and it sparks your imagination. If you have issues with a manager, how to get ahead, how to get beyond them, how to get past them, or you know somebody that's in a situation like that, or anything else related to corporate, you know where to find us. We'll catch you next time.